12 books in the month of January, 7 physical books, which I usually sometimes supplement with the audiobook. I read 2 Kindle romance books and 1 ebook, and I also reread 2 books. I also started 3 NetGalley arcs. I hard DNF one was a soft DNF, and I'm still currently reading the 3rd one. Let's get into it. For years now, when life starts lifing, I always go to one author in particular, and that's Beverly Jenkins. Her books are my form of escapism, and I always go for the ones that are my favorites, and this is one of my favorites. I love Jake and Laura Lee's story. They have this kind of enemies to lovers / marriage of convenience thing going, and it just works. It's an easy story to get into and get away from life for a little bit. My next reread was kind of random, and it was The Ballad of Black Time by Victor LaValle. I actually listened to this one on audio this time, and his audiobooks are always a good time. The narrator does a really good job at bringing this story to life, and the story is such a great read if you're looking for something to read in a short amount of time. I've been really out of the romance game lately, but when I saw on Instagram that these ladies were doing this collaboration, I just had to try it. I actually really enjoy when indie Black romance authors collaborate on a series. I had a couple issues with this first story being a little bit too wholesome, but I'm used to Kelsey Green's writing, and I know that's kind of how she writes, so it wasn't too bad. And it got a little unhinged at the end. But I knew exactly what I was getting into with this next book by Sherelle Green. This is the author who is responsible for Face Down Fridays and the Choke and Stroke Academy, so I knew exactly what I was getting into with this, and this one did not disappoint. It's a little fast-paced, and I kind of wish she would have expanded more on the background of the character's situation, but overall, it served its purpose. These books are very adult, by the way. This next book took me over a year to finish, and that's Gone Wolf by Amber McBride. This book had me going for the first half, but towards the middle came this huge plot twist that made me kind of reconsider finishing this book. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't what I expected. The writing was really good, and I see where she was trying to go with the story, but it just wasn't for me.
Come on, this has been my worst physical year ever.
Physical, nigga, with a physical.
This was actually a really good physical book month for me, and it started with The Time of the Locust by Morora Yeshide. This book was devastatingly beautiful. Devastating in the subject matter, but so beautifully written that you don't even notice at first. It follows a young boy and his parents and is told in multiple points of view. And what I really love about this story is that it gives a voice to autism spectrum disorder in such a beautiful way. This book is a masterful blend of fiction with generational trauma, grief, marriage, and fantasy. This book is dark and haunting, and I even had to put it down for a little bit, but when I picked it back up, I was not disappointed. I tried to read this book years ago, and I just could not get into it. I couldn't get past the beginning, but that was just my immaturity in reading at the time. I wasn't ready for this book yet, and I'm glad I waited because I finally understand the magnificence of Nalo Hopkinson. I understand her writing. I understand her storytelling. I understand her ability to just put you into a story and you're just there, and this is what it is, respectfully, unapologetically, 5 stars. So even though Blackwater Rising and Pleasantville weren't like my favorite books, I still wanted to kind of ride this Attica Locke train. So I continued on with The Cutting Season, and man, I cannot be more impressed with her writing. This story was so good, and I like that from the first page, she just puts you into the story. It's a murder mystery with like multiple layers, and each time she peels back a layer, I am just more like invested in the story. So if you like a mystery that keeps you heavily invested and keeps you guessing at every turn, this is the one for you. And it even has a map in the beginning. And that's something you really don't see in thriller books, so that just adds another star to this book in my opinion. So definitely check this one out. So I didn't think her books could get any better, but then something told me to get Bluebird, and y'all, like, why is nobody talking about this lady? This is book one of the Highway 59 series, and it follows a Lone Star Ranger, a black Lone Star Ranger named Darren, who finds himself kind of skirting the law a little bit with helping a friend and being on this new case. And he's also dealing with some issues in his marriage and with his family. And this book ends on a huge cliffhanger, but it picks up right away in this second book. And it still follows the same Texas Ranger, but he's on a new case now, and he's dealing with some of the aftermath of his decisions from the first book. And y'all, the way I ate all three of these books up. First of all, she has very good audiobook narrators. So if you want the audio version of these books, I would highly suggest it. I love books that don't make you feel like you're reading, and Attica Locke definitely does a great job in her storytelling to make you feel like you're not reading, like this is something that's just happening. I did not want the story to end with Guide Me Home, the third book in the series, but I'm excited to see what she comes with next. Guide Me Home still follows Darren and all the issues that he was going through in book one and in book two, and he is on another case in book three. And with all that going on, the series actually comes to a satisfying conclusion. I would definitely recommend 5 stars. And just when I thought this reading month couldn't get any better, I discovered Untethered by Angela Jackson Brown. And I will admit this, it was the cover for me. I was so drawn into this cover that I wanted to read it no matter what the book was about. And the book was good. I love that the main character was 30 plus and still trying to find her way in life, while also dealing with family life and job related issues and her love life. From start to finish, this book was top tier. 5 stars, definitely recommend. I really didn't think it was going to get any better, but then I picked this book up. This book has been sitting on my shelf for a couple years, and I don't know what took me so long to read it, but I'm so glad I finally did. Y'all, this book was so good, and I know I keep saying that, but I've been reading some really good books, and this is one of the best. This is what I wish Children of Blood and Bone was, but we'll get to that next month. This book had me in a chokehold for real, and if you read it, you know the irony in that. It's YA, but it doesn't read like YA. Cause y'all know I'm trying to get away from YA, but this is the good YA, and it's only YA I feel because the characters are under 18. It's about all girl tribes of fighters who are competing against each other, and the winner of the competition is rewarded with more fighters. And in this world, in this society, the number of fighters you have is going to determine how well your tribe is doing. So this book follows one particular tribe as they train and get ready for the competitions, but then tragedy strikes and kind of throws off their whole plan. And that's pretty much what the story is about. 10 out of 5 stars, highly recommend. Look, don't fight me on this one, but I had to start reading it. I don't think this book is going to be for me. I received the NetGalley arc for this book and started reading it. The first chapter was actually really good, but it lost me after the first chapter. It didn't even feel like I was reading the same book after the first chapter. I feel like the author is trying to do way too much with this story and trying to rush parts of it, but it just feels very shallow. The writing is not all that, and I don't know. Maybe I'll pick it back up, but maybe I won't. I also received the NetGalley arc of this book, and so far it's pretty good. It's just really heavy at times, and I find myself putting it down to kind of cleanse my palate with something else. This book is pretty dark. I forgot I received an arc of The Scorpion Queen from Flatiron Books by Mina Fierce. It's one of those books that you start reading and then you put it down, but then you forget to pick it back up. So yeah,